The story begins with a description of a certain character. His name was Chu Zhan, a handsome master who saves grief-stricken people. Known as the king of comforting lonely hearts, the best at taking care of people. His mundane job is to create romantic dates to comfort beauties with broken hearts. Standing in front of the girl, he holds out a bouquet of flowers, explaining that in this world, besides scumbags, there are so many beautiful things that deserve attention. However, sometimes he takes on a special job. After saying this, a question to some girl that she broke up with him because of Chu Zhan rang out. Chu Zhan confidently talked about himself, that he was a student of the University of Technology, rich, handsome and tall. He assured that he was not a brat and who gave some guy the right to call him that. Chu Zhan heard that he has a toy gun. He explained that he needs a lot of money to be escorted. He also heard that he has unhealthy kidneys, but that doesn't stop the guy from stabbing him. After these words, a crushing blow rang out. Chu Zhan then asked his sister about her condition and assured that she would no longer be disturbed by that guy. However, Chu Zhan adheres to professional principles and does not socialize with clients. The girl swept up that she was cruel and asked to be her boyfriend, forgetting about work, but Chu Zhan didn't understand. After all, he was only there to help her. Many Chu Zhan is called the master of time management, saying that, sitting on the necks of women, how do they know that he wanted to become such a boy? At this point, he paid for 4 rented cars and clothes, then the premises and labor. Walking down the street, he didn't realize what kind of person would have a hard time sitting on his neck. According to him, if he was earning so much, he would be free in eating chicken. However, he recently ate cold food, but no one saw it. Something started to blind him. It was some guys who started twisting him. The chief of them explained that Chu Zhan was so popular recently and asked if he knew who he had provoked. After beating him up, the guy said that Chu Zhan was rumored to be a master of time management, and today he unexpectedly found some top-quality goods, allowing Chu Zhan to participate in several sports. Several pumped-up guys appeared and started attacking Chu Zhan. Also, a guy said that he knew Chu Zhan would be interested and prepared a good proposal. It was some kind of medicine that they started putting in his mouth. Chu Zhan realized that if he took a lot of pills, he would explode. At this moment, some kind of notification appeared, indicating that he would die in 10 seconds. Since he had no choice, he figured he wouldn't starve to death on the street and let people say he was a sucker. Clicking yes, the system started up and asked me to prepare for the transition. Next, he teleported to some lake and found himself next to a certain girl. She asked him to open his eyes and was surprised that he was still talking. Chu Zhan was horrified by this situation. Chu Zhan assumed that this cultivator had transported him through time. But transported back in time, and immediately into the arms of a beauty, he thought he was finally lucky. In his opinion, she is unusually good, 100 times more beautiful than all those he met on Earth. He called her little sister too and asked questions about where they were now and what she wanted to do. She asked him to shut up, but Chu Zhan took it as a sign and decided to kiss her, to which he received a punch in the face. The girl reported to the commander that she found him in the gorge. During the search she found him naked and poisoned. The commander explained that he was a real human soul and could take away his power. The girl assured that all men are trouble and asked the commander not to worry. This time she will remove the witness. Hearing this, Chu Zhan was shocked and thought that these maidens were clearly malevolent. He decided he had to get out first and think later. Just as he started walking, he received a notification that his health was too low. Chu Zhan realized that this devilish game, in which the price of life was huge, those transvestites had truly made him an immortal vessel, only all the blood had been drunk out that there was no strength left. He couldn't run, for his legs were absorbent cotton. At that moment some girl stood in front of him. It was Bailu. She threw him far away. It was heard by the girls who had gone farther away. He landed next to them. Chu Zhan barely surfaced and tried to get out of the water, as at the same moment, he was surrounded by either men or women. A certain girl questioned if orders had been given to guard the gorge and why they had disobeyed and gotten involved. It was the captain, and it was explained to her that they had discovered this spy in a moment of danger. But the captain, Chung Zion, was displeased and asked for no excuses, then ordering everyone to go to the gate, also 100 lashes. She decided that Chu Zhan was nothing more than a useless man and assured that she would dispose of him. Chu Zhan was very worried and realized that these women were one angrier than the other. Chung Zion charged him that he only got one chance and told him to tell what kind of person he was after all. Chu Zhan realized that if he lied, he would most likely die. After all, a sword was pointed at him. He explained that he was not from this world and had come for the sake of his celestial sister, the kind he could only meet in a dream, and pointed at the girl. He also added that he did not remember how he got there. Chong Jian was furious because he was talking nonsense and was about to strike, but Chu Zhan assured them that he was telling the truth. While she was about to stab him with her sword, a water balloon flew into her sword and repelled her blow. The girl that repelled her attack explained that Chu Zhan had a rare soul and told her to first take him to the vessel temple for refinement. Yao Ji said that if he could get out of the guardian hall, he would see her every day. It had been 3 days since he'd been caught by these strange women, but he'd had time to settle in a bit. Looking at the map that showed the outskirts of the earth, he explained that it was a wild and desolate continent where humans and monsters lived. 7 human races occupy one part of the continent. Until now, more than half of the continent is outside, where powerful monsters dwell. In a battle with Yaozu, one could only count on powerful immortals, thus the Shuxian clan became powerful as well as the entire country. In Chu Zhan's opinion, the worst thing was that men were restricted, while women had no restrictions. It was a world where women ruled over men. In this world, women are taking over the world, but men have no status. They have only servant work and the ability to carry on the lineage. He didn't like the system and thought it was insignificant. He wouldn't want people calling him a brat. At this point, he received a notification stating that it was discovered that the hero had existed for 72 hours, asked whether to unlock the rookie skill. Choosing to answer yes, a gift was dropped out to him with a signed notification that scientific cultivation, infinite mana, TAC also offered to unlock a beginner's skill. A wheel of pistols appeared in front of him, from which he selected one of them and made sure the system worked, and didn't seem to be an illusion. The system then asked him if he was willing to spend 5 points to buy 10 rounds of ammunition. Chu Zhan knew this system. Currency was smart points, and consumables needed to be bought with points. There was a knock on his door asking him how long he would be sitting on the toilet. Chu Zhan decided that even though he was traveling in this strange world of women, he had a system and it would help him. Arriving at a certain air base, the 2 girls descended and were greeted by warriors. In the residential party area, 2 warriors led Chu Zhan somewhere. The locals did not understand who he was. New and handsome, from his short hair, they assumed that he was a Buddhist cultivator. Chu Zhan saw that a certain girl was leading the prisoners and told one of them to pretend to die. She was advised by someone to hit him again and he would definitely die. She interjected if he wanted him dead, to which her brother's call to them rang out from the crowd. People noticed how the gazebo was being carried with a red elder with a white tiger by her side. A command to stand was heard from the gazebo, followed by a white tiger jumping out of there. The tiger mercilessly attacked the prisoners and stretched one of their backs. The reddest elder reminded us that all men are slaves, they have no rights, they are not allowed to touch a woman. Chu Zhan realized that this world of female discrimination, he would not leave it like this. Walking with some girl through the Temple of Vessels, he asked her what it was for. She explained that the vessel temple nurtured vessels, but it was the only place where men could improve. According to her, if Chu Zhan was lucky, he would melt qi and achieve longevity. He decided to ask if it was true that according to the mentors, men reaching the highest level, if they melted qi. The girl said that if Chu Zhan discarded the idea of becoming a Buddha, he could reach the limit, the golden elixir of immortality. However, then a man would not be considered a man. Chu Zhan was curious about the people who entered the temple. It was said that every year many people come to the temple to be tested. carefully selected fighters. There will also be prisoners of war and more guys like Chu Zhan exceptions, but very many during the test will drop out. Abruptly interrupting their conversation, she told them to stop strolling. She was reporting to the mentor and the head of the temple. Chu Zhan would be taken to the reception again. Chu Zhan was dissatisfied and did not know how this order could allow him to cultivate. Speaking of himself in the third person, he believed that he was so eager to comprehend the art of immortals that he was willing to stab himself. Turning his head, he saw some women. He wondered, they must be the same prisoners of war, but aren't there magical beings outside? Why are all the prisoners of war human? Wondered Chu Zhan. Hong Luo, the girl in red outfit, boasted that this time she had 8 high-class male slaves. The temple can replace hundreds of valuables. The girl who led the slaves behind the red-robed elder was happy for Hong Luo, and she is far from her, but just one, even a high-class slave, can't replace the loss of ritual utensils. The girl in blue also shared her results. They were identical to Hong Luo. They passed by Chu Zhan and decided to find out who he was. Hong Luo was the first to start asking what he was doing there and if he even knew what this place was. Her friends also agreed and believed that Chu Zhan was still young and should leave to save his life from the ordeal. In turn, Chu Zhan sharply replied to them that he was not interested in them. All the girls were furious, as at the same moment from behind one of the prisoners started banging his head on the floor. Hong Luo ordered him to be quiet by whiplash, for she was talking. If he made noise again, she was going to kill him. Hong Luo approached Chu Zhan explaining that these savages were only brought to the vessel temple for testing. Noticing that he had smooth skin, she didn't understand how he would get along with him. She offered him to go along with her. She was going to be gentle and give him a chance to put him out of his misery. Pulling her hand away from his, he assured her that he didn't need it. According to him, if he died in the trial, it was better than being with someone like her. He didn't even know her, and the look on her face didn't bode well, an unpleasant impression in his opinion. Hong Luo did not like it and she wanted to show him and told him to stay out of her sight, otherwise she would play with him, sell him to a brothel and have him woo the visitors. After saying those words, he slapped her. The slaves did not understand how he dared to do so. At the same time, Chu Zhan cried out that he hated it when others called him a sucker. With a death wish, Hong Luo launched a fiery strike at Chu Zhan. As soon as the fire hit him, he received a system notification. It said it detected an attack, that the system was replenishing energy, and received 0.01 points. Chu Zhan realized that from the beginning, the system could absorb magic attacks. In that case, could it be said that thanks to the system, he has unimaginable strength and any attack would be absorbed and would not harm him? Some slaves shouted to turn around to Chu Zhan. At this moment, a fire phoenix flew at him from behind and exploded as it landed. Chu Zhan realized that these days had only managed to recover a little bit of energy, but it was not enough. The system was able to absorb a small part of the magic attack, the other still came at him. Hong Luo understood that he had a bit of ability, and even the true power of the fire phoenix couldn't kill him. Taking him by the hair and swinging her sword, she was furious at how dare he stare at her. She told him not to think that if he had a pretty face it made him somehow special. In her opinion, a slave is a slave, and tonight once she got his head sorted out she was going to show him what it was like to mess with her. The bound slaves were watching, but unexpectedly, Chu Zhan took out a gun and pointed it at her. Chu Zhan stated that times had changed and he had come for immortality, not to be a slave. He was determined to change this world. Further, being at the head, a certain girl reported that the head to leave for a while, and the council of elders arbitrarily invaded the territory of demonic clans and suffered heavy losses. She did not understand where the influence of the head, because she again allows them to behave as they please. She also mentioned that they brought that slave here, and if he blabbed about her injury, in that case the council of elders. Before she could finish, the head interrupted her by bringing her hand to her mouth, where various lights were shooting out. Then there was a violent rumble of thunder, which the warriors noticed, but they were confident that the head would surely deal with it. Next, the red-robed elder was a bit embittered that Yao Ji had managed again. She picked up a magical artifact that allowed her to know about the death of the artifact owner. Returning back to the head, the girl that had reported the news to her was pleased that they had managed to break through the boundaries of immortality and the sky. The chapter explained that she now knows why the chapter left the guy. After that they approached the table and the head was wondering what happened there. The girl reported to her that the best student was killed inside. The head interrogated inside where exactly, to which she received an affirmative answer, in the Temple of Vessels. After firing the shot, Chu Zhan wondered if this system also affected the psyche. After all, how could one explain that after realizing that he had killed a person, one was so calm inside? Chu Zhan received a system notification stating that the biological material available for research had been collected, scanning had been completed, the collection of information on humanoid biological species had also been completed, new biological research had contributed, the reward was 1%. Chu Zhan noticed that the life energy had indeed recovered. He didn't understand if this system was collecting information about the immortals of this world and wanted to deprive them of their abilities. He was unlocked healing and defense, also to use accessories he had to spend a point to buy them. Next, Bailu came out of the temple. Chu Zhan was surprised by her and didn't understand what she was doing here. As soon as Bailu came out, the dead woman's friends turned to her to capture the slave, for he had killed their mentor Hong. Bailu in turn slapped. After all, she is in charge of the Vessel Temple's affairs, and when she got to the point where they tell her what to do, one of the friends of the deceased, assured that mentor Hong is the daughter of Elder Hong, does Bailu want to become a murderer? But Bailu in turn didn't understand, so what if she was the daughter of an elder, because an outstanding female disciple half a step away from immortality, couldn't handle a man. Chu Zhan was further reprimanded for not having time to enter, immediately smashing the ritual vessels, rearranging the orders of the temple. Be that as it may, there was no rule that allowed one to not retaliate with a punch. Chu Zhan justified himself. Besides, he only wanted to teach her a lesson. Who knows why she couldn't withstand a punch? This answer was considered witty. He was offered an option. If he could survive Elder Hong's persecution, he would be allowed to take the test at the Vessel Temple. At this moment, a white tiger roared and a red elder landed. Looking at her dead daughter, she asked who dared to do this and told her to come out. Chu Zhan received a system notification stating that a true life force attack had been detected, filling the system's ability, but he didn't understand anything. The Red Elder asked the girls if he had killed her daughter, whereupon Chu Zhan began to make excuses that she was going to kill him and he was only defending himself. But the Red Elder didn't care about that and sent a sword at him. After landing, Chu Zhan stood up and pulled out his sword. He was wearing an armored vest that could be put on after level 3, otherwise he would have already died. The Red Elder was determined and wanted to finish. The girl prompted her that Chu Zhan had a magic artifact, releasing the phoenix. She wanted to see what it could do. Suddenly, smoke appeared. No one understood where it was coming from, but at this moment, Chu Zhan applied analgesic to his speed, stamina, physical recovery speed, and shooting accuracy. Running around the Red Elder, he began to volley his pistol. As soon as the bullets were fired from the clip towards the Red Elder, she immediately reflected them all back, causing Chu Zhan to be surprised. Pointing her sword at him, she told him to show him what else he was hiding. After these words, a light and noise grenade was dished out and detonated. The Red Elder was greatly blinded, but after coming to her senses, she saw a gun pointed at her and Chu Zhan shot her without thinking long. Chu Zhan was greatly surprised, for he had failed. The Red Elder did not understand whether Chu Zhan really expected to be able to pierce through a body created from the purest gold, for even magical artifacts were not always capable of doing so. Raging furiously, she reckoned he wouldn't succeed, whereupon a circle of fire appeared around her and all nearby people were thrown off. The Red Elder told him to get up and stop playing around. Chu Zhan realized that this was a hopeless situation. It wouldn't take long for him to show off at his words. As at this moment, a fireball flew at him, but a moment before it hit, this fireball was stopped by Chong Jian. The Red Elder was furious. How dare she cross her? Chong Jian explained that the chapter had issued an order that Red Elder was not allowed to kill Chu Zhan. Red Elder believed that Chong Jian was using the chapter to pressure her. Interrupting her, she said that she could go to the meeting room and ask the head herself, but as long as Chong Jian was there, she wouldn't lay a finger on the guy. The Red Elder was furious that Chu Zhan was hiding behind Chong Jian's back and decided that no one would save him today. After saying that, the two forces clashed. At the Red Elder's whistle, the White Tiger began to attack Chu Zhan as immediately Chong Jian ran to defend him. A White Tiger ran up to Chu Zhan and a grenade was thrown back at him. There was an explosion, but the tiger was more alive than anyone else and struck Chu Zhan. Kneeling down, Chu Zhan took the last grenade and was confident that he could defeat the White Tiger. After asking him if he believed that Chu Zhan would send him to heaven, the White Tiger attacked him again. In the wake of the attack, the tiger chewed off Chu Zhan's hand and asked him what the pomegranate tasted like. The Red Elder called out to the tiger, but it was too late, for the process was irreversible. After that, Chu Zhan received a system notification that the biological material had been collected and was available for examination. Also, the scanning had been completed, the collection of information about the animal's biological data had been completed. Chu Zhan was glad, for the condition had stabilized, which meant that the injured body could recover. Further being in the sky, the Red Elder decided to attack him. With her attack, she completely filled the place where Chu Zhan was standing. Bailu didn't understand if it was the defense of the Golden Bell, but at this moment, Chong Jian appeared and said that the Golden Bell could only be used by the head. She wished that Chong Jian repeated this. After saying that, the Red Elder disappeared somewhere, and Chong Jian ordered the two warriors to take the guy to the chapter hall. Asking them to wait for a second, Chu Zhan gave the slaves the blindfold. He couldn't let these people see him taking things from the system. After bandaging the wounded slave, he began to heal. Chu Zhan was glad that he had helped him and left afterwards. The next evening, Chu Zhan was in the bathhouse and was glad, because he didn't expect her to be so cool there. Coming out of the shower, girls came into his room. They helped him dress, but after putting on a robe, he decided to dress himself and asked when the head wanted to see him. One of the girls kindly replied that he would soon see the head. He was very lucky. She also said that he was the only man who was in this divine bath. The other girl was not happy that her friend talked a lot. She thought that if the head found out about it, she would be punished. Chu Zhan decided that he would finally be able to see the characterization. Opening the character's status, he was pleasantly surprised that his appearance hadn't deteriorated, and the charm streak was 100. System notifications popped up for him to unlock the single-shot assault rifle, as well as the summoning of the young ghost tiger. It has the invisibility ability, has no attack power, and during the action per minute 1 point is spent. Chu Zhan became interested in the ghost tiger and summoned it. The ghost tiger was small, the size of a palm. This little guy was like a drone. He could share information with Chu Zhan. He really liked to shout. Due to this, Chu Zhan decided to name him Ao Wu Miao. Smelling a certain odor, Chu Zhan decided to check what it was. Walking along the smell, he walked into another room where someone was bathing. It was the chapter. Seeing her, he was delighted. Just like the ghost tiger suddenly rushed towards the head and Chu Zhan was unable to hold him back. The head was surprised at who had come crawling to her. It was obvious she didn't like animals and cast him simply aside. Chu Zhan received a system notification that the tiger spirit has been used up. It takes 1 hour to restore the power of the tiger godling, then it can be summoned again. Chu Zhan kindly asked if his mentor was practicing. She had heard that he had no time to appear, immediately killed Elder Hong's daughter. He confirmed this and immediately explained that she first wanted to kill him, not to have him die. Chu Zhan thought. The head asked for a reason why she should not kill him, otherwise she would only have to bring Chu Zhan's head to appease the anger of the Council of Elders. Chu Zhan asked his mentor to look at the weapon and explained that without this weapon, he would have died. The head looked at this weapon and realized that no dura, nothing more than a piece of iron. In her opinion, this is a clear creation of a master craftsman. This was the first time she had seen such a weapon. Chu Zhan said that although it was a simple piece of iron, but it could shoot special arrows, which was the case with Elder Hong's daughter. He said that the temple was not yet expert. If every disciple had such a thing, the strength of the temple would increase. The head wondered if he was able to do such a thing. Chu Zhan confidently replied that where he came from, all the children could do it, but only needed time. The head wanted to know where he got that thing, because when he was taken, it wasn't there. He explained that he had taken it back then. Maybe the mentor hadn't noticed. She told him to tell her what other treasures he was hiding. Going around Chu Zhan from behind and pressing herself against him, she assured that he had no aura, no charm, and if he was spying, he was a so-so, but he had so many secrets that she had no idea about. The head said that there seemed to be enough strength, although there was still a long way to go before the monks from the upper boundary. Chu Zhan was dumbfounded. Apparently there was no training at all. She assured that from now on, he would not be so tactless again. Elder Hong was half a step away from immortality. Killing her Chu Zhan was not difficult. The head considered him the first vessel. If her people allowed themselves to be killed, what would happen to her reputation? The head explained. But Chu Zhan replied that in that case, they might run into him again. He is the kind of person who always responds to his offender. He believed that constantly giving in, you are only holding back the inner demon. Sometimes it is worth it to show persistence and fight back the enemy. The head was going to give Chu Zhan the teachings of the temple and asked if he wanted to learn. The teachings are called peak by peak. The meaning is as follows. After reaching one peak, you become higher by one more, beginning with a simple practice. Then you can talk about an impenetrable golden body, strength, the agility of a tiger and the ferocity of a dragon. Step by step you are moving towards perfection, reaching the unprecedented. Your body is more and more like a diamond. You will shake the sky, shake the earth. Chu Zhan immediately agreed that he would learn. The head was happy to hear this and decided that they would start right away. She used the Thunder Heart technique. It could be used to strike the mind. At this moment, Chu Zhan received a system message about obtaining a new skill. Apex by Apex Level 1 when used can activate the golden body. 1 point of magic power is spent per second. Chu Zhan thought this technique was very cool. The strength and energy directly doubled. Apex by Apex spent magical power every second. This meant that there was only 10 seconds. The head thought that it was not sweet for him. He did not want to cure his soul yet and wanted to see his real essence. After that, she used the technique of soul detection, a supreme technique. With it, you can dive into the sea of knowledge and invade the enemy's memory. Chu Zhan didn't understand what was happening. A bunch of system errors appeared around him, and then a message appeared saying that the system had connected to the knowledge sea and began loading data from memory. The head did not understand how this could be. It was obvious that Chu Zhan had not reached perfection, but somehow could reflect the soul detection technique, while devouring her strength without stopping. Chu Zhan received a system message that the download was complete. Only 1.7 GB of memory had been received. He felt that its size and shape were not suitable for him. Further finishing this technique, the head decided she had had enough of him and hit him so hard that he flew off into the bathing area. She pounced on him asking what he had done to her after all. She started punching and throwing him around the room. Chu Zhan on the other hand didn't understand why she had to punch him so suddenly. Did they really start learning the Apex by Apex technique already? Barely rising, he could not see his mentor around him and called out to her. She was behind him and angry. In a fit of rage, she took Chu Zhan and flew very far away, landing somewhere in the jungle. Chu Zhan noticed that he only had half a life left and his magic power had run out. In this he thanked peak after peak. Deciding to look around since they were in the middle of nowhere, he sees some stone head. Maybe it was a monument. Chu Zhan saw that the head was exhausted and was raring to help her. Before he could approach her, she pushed him away with indignation that only she had weakened and he had taken advantage of that and attacked. She realized that Chu Zhan had reflected the soul detection technique and had taken away almost all of her strength. her gains were lost and old wounds were exposed. In her opinion now, mastering the peak-by-peak technique even at a low level would not help. Chu Zhan was surprised how she could think such a thing. He believed that he was someone who comprehended the high morals of a warrior. How could he treacherously attack her? At that moment an incomprehensible sound began to emit, then an earthquake started. The head ordered them not to move, for turning around they saw a huge serpent. Chu Zhan began to scream, not understanding how a snake could be so huge. The head was surprised how an ancient python 100 li away from the gate was able to appear and how long ago. The ancient python chopped the tree and began to surround Chu Zhan and the head. From the side, a certain girl in a red outfit was watching. That girl in the red outfit was called Yin Hong Yi. She didn't understand what the noise was in the middle of the night. She was approached by Chu Zhan as a respectable person and apologized that they were lost and were already leaving. She told them to stand. After saying that, the ancient python opened a passage for her. She walked up to Chu Zhan and started to smell him, then licked him. She explained this action to Chu Zhan, that little handsome men taste sweet. She decided that for the next 3 months he would be her man. She was interrupted by the head, saying that Yin Hong Yi was late and Chu Zhan was already hers. Yin Hong Yi thought that the head immortal, unable to stand firmly on her feet, would come and take it away. The head explained to her that this was the land of humans. It was not her right, the demon clan, to come and rampage. Yin Hong Yi was surprised how lowly immortals dared to challenge her. Since she had come there, she would do what she wanted. The girls were arguing, as at this moment they were interrupted by Chu Zhan shooting a stick at Yin Hong Yi. He assured that he did not care about her, but asked still not to interfere with his mentor and suggested that everyone live their own lives. Yin Hong Yi praised him that he had just started to improve his qi and already had such zeal. She thought he was even more interesting and said that 3 months would not be enough, suggesting 6 months. The head was very angry and decided to hit Yin Hong Yi, who noticed this and was dissatisfied that all people are mean, only thinking of how to stab in the back. Yin Hong Yi became angry and directed a pillar of smoke at the head. Chu Zhan was shocked. In his opinion it was too much to be so cruel. The head suddenly sent some kind of signal up. Yin Hong Yi thought that if the signal would not destroy, it would at least stir up people. She also found out that they were from the temple on Mount Yao. She said she had traveled 1,000 li to find them. The head assured that if it was no more than 100 li from there to her gate, she would reach it in an instant. He offered to give Yin Hong a chance to leave. Yin Hong Yi thought this would not do. She was dissatisfied and wanted to know how long the people from Mount Yao would invade them and kill their children. The demon lord sent Yin Hong Yi to teach them a lesson. She did not know how she could leave without destroying her temple and killing her disciples. The head didn't understand. That was why Yin Hong Yi was assigned this task. She agreed that sending her of course alone was impossible, as at this moment, various silhouettes appeared behind her. Yin Hong Yi thought since they came to fight, how could they bring so few people? At this moment, there was a big bear with an axe behind her. Suddenly, the flying ship of the chapter appeared from behind the clouds. From there, a bright yellow trail appeared towards them. The soldiers of the chapter beamed at them and were happy to welcome them. Yin Hong Yi was delighted by their appearance, and was going to, instead of fighting in enemy territory, first have fun here, then followed the order to attack. The ancient python began to take off and attack the head ship with flames, which Chu Zhan was surprised by. Also, the huge bear began to attack with its axe. Chu Zhan was puzzled. After all, the bear was very strong. 98k did not pierce it, could only wound it slightly. He asked his mentor, would they be defeated? One of the head servants explained that the monsters were hostile. She was going to enter the clan's secret place and take magical amulets to resist. The head ordered to take disciples and retreat, return and guard the gate. The assistant agreed with this order and asked the head to be more careful. With a demanding respect for himself, turning to his mentor, Chu Zhan ran away. This was noticed by Yin Hong Yi and told the big bear to go after him. She needed the boy alive and the rest did not matter. The head and Chu Zhan struggled to escape. but Chu Zhan received a system message that an enemy attack had been detected. The system activated the filling ability. His mentor was bad, she had no attack absorption system, she must have been poisoned. He was surprised how the mentor was alive, wounded and poisoned. When he saw from the cliff that a big bear was looking for them, he realized he had to leave, but he couldn't leave her here. Taking her on his shoulder, he began to run into the woods and look for a place to extract the poison. The big bear climbed up the cliff where Chu Zhan and the head were earlier. Chu Zhan realized that the bear was tracking by scent. Back then he thought that it made things easier. The bear saw the clothes of Chu Zhan and his head, thought that it was them, and with a sharp swing of his axe, he cut down a tree, after which smoke began to disperse. Chu Zhan noticed this from afar and was glad that he had succeeded. Taking out a bag of earth, he called out Ao Wu Miao. He told him to take this, and fly to the bear, release it above its head and make it spin. Ao Wu Miao didn't want to do this, but Chu Zhan denoted, if he didn't, then he would lock it up and a century of not releasing it. Reluctantly with tears, Ao Wu Miao went with this pouch and was told to take the bear away. The card that Ao Wu Miao brought to Chu Zhan was very convenient. Chu Zhan received a system notification that the ghost tiger had used up 30 points. Whether Chu Zhan wanted to continue, he was unpleasantly surprised. In his opinion, the ghost tiger was expensive. 30 points would be enough to buy a double lens. Running away all the time was not an option either. The situation was critical, and he still had to think of a way to save the chapter. Having taken a syringe of adrenaline for him, it was also unknown whether it would help or not to neutralize the poison. Having decided that he would go, he was going to inject, but he did not know where. According to his associations from the movies, it was shown that it should be injected directly into the heart. Swinging, he injected the syringe directly into her heart and the head woke up. He immediately indicated that he had injected her and asked her not to hit him. The head realized that this young man, at this moment, was thinking about how to save her. She hoped there was no catch. She asked what was going on now. Chu Zhan started to tell them that one bear was chasing them, but he outsmarted him and led him down the wrong road. But we can't pull any further. She called him along because she knew a place to hide. They approached some waterfall and were both enthralled by its beauty. Chu Zhan remarked that it was similar to the place where they met. The head put her hand up to the wall and some waves started crashing along it. A bear stood over the waterfall and watched it all. Raising his head, Chu Zhan saw that the bear flew at him with his axe, but just after landing with his axe, the bear did not hit with a strike. They managed to enter the portal. Chu Zhan did not understand what the strange portal was. As if he was so uncomfortable in the water, the head explained that the spiritual pressure here was 10 times greater than outside. If Chu Zhan wanted to survive, he should have not touched the trace of true energy. Chu Zhan was curious about the status of the spiritual pressure. His scan was complete. Gathering information about the laws of the universe was finished. For contributing to the research development of the new world, will provide a 1% reward. He was given a bounty and a new skill. He could unlock an assault rifle and related materials. You must buy spirit points to use the consumable. Chu Zhan asked where it was. She explained that it was the secret place of her gate on Mount Yao, the burial place of swords, masters of past generations. The so-called secret place, which is one of 3,000 small worlds, a space that is connected to the main world, or a place with refinements and a source of generation of special power, the growth of the most numerous sects in the world, is directly dependent on the secret place. Chu Zhan wondered whether this was equivalent to a copy of the game. In that case, he asked a copy of their clan, the secret place and what it spawned. The head replied that it spawned a sacred star. Chu Zhan was curious if there was a lot of new knowledge in this episode. The head explained that every 100 years in this place, a heavenly star is born from a sacred tree. If eventually it can be compressed into a body, then, one can use the power of the star to strengthen the body. She stated, if he is with her, then he should have washed old wounds and set foot on the right path. If he is alone, then this is the only way to overcome male limitations. At this moment, Chu Zhan called out to her with the words that a bear head was chasing them. but she was calm and told her that the spiritual pressure and demonic force here were repelling each other. It needed time before they would take effect. 10 generations of masters from the Yao Mountain Temple had established the sword graveyard in this small world. Getting out of there was indeed a real challenge. Chu Zhan wondered if the spiritual pressure outside was stronger than here. Turning around, he saw a large bear enter the portal behind them, but they were already leaving into another one. The spiritual pressure in this secret place was so great that staying here could replenish unlimited points. At this moment, a large bear appeared behind them and swung its large axe. Chu Zhan, on the other hand, received a system warning about the detection of elevated spiritual pressure, and the system was charging. Before he could swing his axe, the bear was wounded. The head calmly told that the spiritual pressure here was 1,000 times higher than in the outside world. Anyone who recklessly moved the true life force could explode and die. After which, an arrow flew into the big bear, after which it fell down. Looking around, Chu Zhan saw some lizard warriors. Approaching the edge of the hill, Chu Zhan was worried about who these creatures were. His mentor explained that they were the locals of this secret place. With the dragon blood, they were born warriors. For Chu Zhan it was unclear whether they were enemies or friends. After saying that there were only enemies there, an arrow was launched at them from below. The head told them to hide behind her back. After fending off the arrow, she jumped down and began to attack the unknown enemy. The local warriors came to her aid. According to some rumors, Chu Zhan decided to find out if true strength could not be used here. The head explained that she had just used a special martial art. Masters of past generations of the temple gate, only through this technique did they break through to the sacred forest to obtain a heavenly star and the power to lead the clan. It was no surprise to Chu Zhan that Elder Hong was so rude. From the beginning, she was not recognized as the head of the clan. After confirming his judgment, he began to have her memories downloaded. As a child, her parents were killed by an unclean force and she was saved by Xian Lin, who was the head of the gate of the Yao Mountain Temple. Since because of her extremely high talent, she went to the mountain gate and became a clan disciple. Xian Ling was killed 10 years ago. Before she died, she handed over the position of clan leader to her. But the power of the mountain gate did not completely obey her. At this moment, the head closed Chu Zhan's mouth and led him behind a tree. Some warriors passed by. The head thought that a man is a man, while indulging in empty dreams. He is really useless. She explained that there were many dangers along the way. If he didn't want to go, he could go back home. The teleport could take him back anywhere. Chu Zhan, on the other hand, was confident and asked to look at him. He still wanted to see what the sacred tree heavenly star was like. He summoned Ao Wu Miao, to which the head was surprised. How could he spear it? After all, the spiritual pressure here is high. Chu Zhan explained that this little colored embryo following him might not be affected by the spiritual pressure, so they could not find out the way. After saying that, Chu Zhan sent it into the air to find out the way. At this moment, a certain girl with a wild appearance was watching them. Her name was Tu Tian. Opening the map, they saw the patrolman with dragon blood. Chu Zhan offered his mentor his help. He could avoid these patrolmen. The head didn't like it, for this path had been traveled too well. According to her, there was a sacred forest ahead. It was guarded by a girl with dragon blood. She would be harder to deal with. At this moment, an arrow flew out from under the gorge and stabbed into Ao Wu Miao. It was a certain warrior in iron armor who had launched arrows at them and was about to climb up. But in the blink of an eye, there was an explosion from him and he was defeated. Next, someone landed on the hill to Chu Zhan and his head. It was the Dragon Blood Princess. In her opinion, the chapter's sword spirit is very strong and her man is also very handsome. Today, she was going to defeat them using the sword spirit and then take that man away. Chu Zhan was puzzled. His head said that Tu Tian's hair had not yet grown back, and she already wanted to deprive him of a man. Tu Tian in turn thought that what good is old age? After all, the main thing is youth, not to be like the skin of an old vegetable. Without thinking long, the head started attacking her and struck her with a wave. Tu Tian didn't even flinch and started attacking her back. The head started to attack him, but Tu Tian blocked her strike with her body and the head was surprised by this. She asked about the star treasure, had she absorbed the sacred star? But Tu Tian felt that it was not worth assuming that only their human race could improve, it was their world, the so-called celestial star that attracted them here from generation to generation. The head ordered Chu Zhan to go first, she was going to cover, but Tu Tian decided that she wouldn't just let her leave, after all, she wouldn't let her. The head was surprised by the immense strength, she couldn't use true strength here, so it was impossible to injure Tu Tian. Chu Zhan stood in front of her determined to protect her. Tu Tian thought he was a handsome man, but being handsome, he would not be able to save his woman. She decided that there could only be one ending. With these words, she threw herself at him and told him to die. But Chu Zhan took out a gun and shot at her. The chapter was surprised. It turned out the spiritual pressure here was too great. This is a completely cut-off area. Even if this girl absorbed the sacred star, she doesn't have perfect defensive strength, and the chapter fell for her ploy. Tu Tian was furious at what kind of weapon he had, how he managed to smash her treasure with a single blow. Chu Zhan explained to her that she was imperfect and didn't even know what she was talking about. He didn't kill her, she could still return to heal her wounds, and try to take revenge on him. Tu Tian told him not to confuse their dragon blood clan with her weak human clan, after which, she simply took out a bullet, drank a certain drink and it started to recover before her eyes. She started running at him with her sword and approached him and chopped his gun. She decided that once again she would not allow her artifact to be taken. In response to this, Chu Zhan took out a smoke bomb and tried to run away. Tu Tian saw that he was using something to block the energy of her dragon sword, but Chu Zhan was coming out of the smoke and this was surprised by the head. How was it possible? Since there was spiritual pressure, he moved freely and did not die. Chu Zhan said that Tu Tian had miscalculated one thing, the spiritual pressure here did not work on him, but Tu Tian retaliated by charging him to let her look at his shell and how many blows it could withstand. His magic power really cannot withstand many blows, but Lu Xian, Chinese writer who had a great influence on the development of literature and socio-political thought in China, said if there is not enough mana, then take a gun. After these words, Chu Zhan began to fire a volley of weapons towards Tu Tian. Her knights decided to help her and one of them struck Chu Zhan with his sword. Chu Zhan was furious at this and didn't understand how he didn't know that there was morality in beating people. Tu Tian also didn't understand how he could use real-life force here. If she didn't believe, Chu Zhan called out for her to try again. She realized that there was something wrong with this man, so she decided to return to her place. She got on a big eagle and flew away, but promised to come back. Chu Zhan understood that this was supposed to be a battle to the last blood, but for some reason, Tu Tian ran away. The head assumed that she was frightened by Chu Zhan's ability to use true life force. But Chu Zhan decided that she was undaunted, for what could one be afraid of in a life force? He noticed a sword that he thought looked very valuable, and didn't even know if he could take it away. The spiritual pressure there is a heavenly barrier formed at the creation of the world. No matter how high your level of perfection is, there is no possibility of insubordination, unless it is a great Buddha or an ancient mythical beast embodied by the heavens. Chu Zhan wondered if he might be special. At this moment, he had his scanning completed. The collection of information on the remains of higher organisms is complete. The system asked to contribute 1% to the research of new biological types and asked for a reward. Chu Zhan wanted to scan this sword and he succeeded. The status was restored, recovery time reset to 0, so he also obtained a new ghost tiger skill. He absorbs the remains of higher creatures and mutates the acquired skill. Chu Zhan was interested in what this absorbing material meant, asking Ao Wu Miao. Ao Wu Miao decided to demonstrate it on a certain horn. He ate it and was full. The head didn't understand what Chu Zhan was up to there and asked him about it, but he immediately started to refuse and asked where they were going to go next. Before they could figure out their plan, they were going to obtain a celestial star first. Raising his head, Chu Zhan saw an incredibly tall tree. The head touched the tree and a kind of solar orb began to descend from the branches. the head thought that Chu Zhan was very lucky. Venus was unexpectedly a metallic celestial star, matching his layered top. Chu Zhan's mentor explained that on the way here, they did not encounter the Dragon Blood clan. She believed that something was wrong and they should hurry, beware of any changes. Chu Zhan did not understand why they should hurry, but the head dragged him into the portal and they were left without clothes. She asked him to endure. They appeared in a kind of dungeon. Chu Zhan was petrified and the stone began to crumble. His head appeared. Chu Zhan didn't understand what was wrong, but he was disgusted. The head explained that it was all bad spiritual resistance in his body. Without a heavenly star to help him temper it, his life force would remain at the first level of chi purification. Although the origin of male enhancement is common, but looking at this kind of reincarnation, it is rare. Completely casting aside the stone, Chu Zhan believed that cultivating immortality did not only depend on the origin. No matter how good it was not a guarantee of victory. After hardening his body, almost all the properties doubled, but he didn't understand why his intelligence didn't increase. The head was going to make him a little uglier, for his next improvement. Chu Zhan on the other hand didn't want that and didn't understand what his problem was if he grew handsome. His mentor believed that a handsome man could only flirt, shaky in nature, it was all for his own good. At this moment, some sounds rang out, a huge grate appeared and locked the two of them up. They were surrounded by archer warriors. The Dragon Blood Queen with 2 Tian flew in, who claimed that Chu Zhan had broken her body. Chu Zhan immediately began to deny everything, but the Dragon Blood Queen was unwavering and said that he had offended her daughter, and also dared to steal the heavenly star of her clan. After saying that, she ordered to launch arrows. Arrows were launched. Seeing this, Chu Zhan used the apex by apex skill and stood in front of the head to protect it from the arrows. He didn't feel those arrows at all, it was like it was the effect of a layered boundary. After that, the head wanted to use force, but it didn't work. Looking at the bones, Chu Zhan stated that there was a problem with those bones. The Dragon Blood Queen told them to surrender immediately. In her opinion it was their only way to save themselves. She threatened that she had 100 ways to bring them to their deaths. Her daughter wanted Chu Zhan, she wanted to turn him into a big bird to ride. Chu Zhan asked not to exaggerate and took out a machine gun, starting to shoot the warriors. The Dragon Blood Queen ordered the bell to ring, to summon the spirits of sacrifice. She wanted them to consume their souls. Tu Tian stated that if Chu Zhan now surrendered and she would spare him, otherwise, he had to wait for the soul snatchers to come. He only had one way out according to her, otherwise his soul would be destroyed. The Dragon Blood Queen asked her not to fantasize. The items for the sacrifice had already been placed on the altar. The soul stealer could no longer be stopped. Chu Zhan didn't understand what soul stealer they were talking about and decided to ask his mentor. She explained that a soul stealer was a tribe protector and was like a powerful ancient physical beast. There was a majestic appearance of the soul snatcher. He seemed very large and powerful from behind the wave of clouds, but in reality, he was just an ordinary bird. This was what Chu Zhan was dissatisfied with. The chicken was furious because in front of Chu Zhan was a chicken king, and he still did not kneel down and acknowledge the fault in front of him. Chu Zhan began to tease him, saying that if such a little guy was dubbed as a king, in that case, he was a true deity. The Chicken King rejected these teases, for Chu Zhan was insignificant in front of him. After continuing to tease him, Chu Zhan shared with his mentor that this little chicken was also a braggart and suggested that he should tame him as a pet parrot. The Chicken King was finally angry and did not understand how Chu Zhan dared to say such things about the king. After that, an incomprehensible purple mixture began to pour out of his beak. Chu Zhan received a system warning of a true spirit energy attack. Then the system recharged. Chu Zhan understood that this chicken was capable. He wondered if he could use the true essence to ignite a flame there, but for some reason, the fire was so cold, not even fiery red. The Chicken King flew at Chu Zhan with a claim that he couldn't even see his true fire, but Chu Zhan translated the arrow, saying that he couldn't see his fire, then asked the mentor if she had summoned the soul-igniting fire. The head explained that the soul fire is the fire of hell. it uses bad karma as fuel, once it uses it, can never get rid of it. Hearing about bad karma, Chu Zhan decided to see if not doing bad deeds was enough. The mentor assured that not only bad deeds, but also not to allow evil thoughts. Faced with such poisonous fire, even the Buddha himself will be forced to retreat. The Chicken King provoked Chu Zhan greatly, and the latter tried to catch him, as at this moment, some sort of lights appeared at the head. The head was surprised by this and Chu Zhan tried to put it out. The Chicken King on the other hand provoked Chu Zhan, asking him not to waste his strength, just waiting until the fire had roasted him to a fragrant crust. Chu Zhan, on the other hand, only told him to try and dare to burn his mentor, then took out an automatic rifle and started shooting at the Chicken King. Falling to the ground, the Chicken King was surprised how Chu Zhan dared to suddenly attack him. Pointing his muzzle at him, he told him to quickly put out the fire on the mentor or else he would hammer him into the bee's nest. Abruptly growing to an unprecedented size, the Chicken King was furious as Chu Zhan dared to threaten the Great King, then began to beat him up. Chu Zhan believed that the ugly chicken was not even interested in military ethics. The Chicken King thought he was a naive boy who talks about martial ethics and flew at Chu Zhan. Chu Zhan in turn used the apex by apex skill and punched him in the chest. With words like how the Chicken King can use true essence, then why can't Chu Zhan? He beat him up. The Chicken King was furious. How dare Chu Zhan hurt the Great King? After these words, he began to jump on Chu Zhan with all his might, but the latter caught him by the throat and told him to quickly extinguish his fire on his mentor, otherwise he would strangle him to death. But the Chicken King explained that he had just mastered the soul fire and could not extinguish it. The chicken was running away and Chu Zhan was trying to catch it by shooting it, but at one point, he ran out of ammunition, and the Chicken King was further provoking it. From behind, Chu Zhan was called out by his mentor who was completely on fire. She looked very weak. Chu Zhan didn't understand what to do. The system could only protect him from damage. Is there really no way to put out the fire on another person's body? Continuing to provoke Chu Zhan, the Chicken King didn't realize what he was carrying. After all, in a moment, she would be an easy snack before bedtime for the king. After summoning Ao Wu Miao, Chu Zhan did not understand why the ghost tiger was material. Was it because it ate that sword and moved to the next level, after which he ordered it to eat the bone that the fence was made of? The king chicken sitting on top saw Ao Wu Miao eating the cage and rushed at him saying that he was forbidden to eat the king's cage. The chicken tried to chase the ghost tiger but was unsuccessful. At this moment, Chu Zhan understood that the soul fire was a sample of the power of the great Tao. He had said about the bandage that it could stop blood, and was also considered a sample of power. Still, he was not completely sure if it would work, but he wrapped his mentor's hands around it and saw that it worked. Fully wrapped around her, lightning began to appear around her. The bandages put out the fire and she lifted herself off the ground. Chu Zhan was surprised at how she could still use true essence. The head seemed that this thing was able to protect against spiritual pressure. Seeing this from the outside, the Chicken King was furious. How could Chu Zhan still use true essence? In his opinion it was unscientific. The head saw the chicken and asked if he wanted to eat her. Cutting the cage with lightning, she struck the chicken with lightning that his butt was fried. Flying away, he asked to wait, for the king would never forgive them for this. The head and Chu Zhan and the ghost tiger were also flying away. Chu Zhan decided to clarify, "Isn't this chicken a mythical beast? How could it be so weak?" She explained that this red bird was indeed a legacy of ancient times. But its power had fallen for some reason. Maybe they should have caught it to dominate everyone. The value of the mythical animal's blood is immeasurable. This time they had to catch this bird. She used lightning magic and hit the bird with a huge bolt of lightning. Then it flew down with great speed and left a huge footprint on the ground. She asked the protagonist if she could give him a chance to escape. But the protagonist told his pet that if he found him, he would give him a reward. The protagonist assumed that this bird had self-healed at a spiritual source. He managed to discover the location of the chicken, and happily reported this to his mentor. Upon entering this location, the system informed him that his spiritual pressure had stabilized. Suddenly they found some crystals. The protagonist asked her what is it. She said that it was the raw ore of the Sky Lord Taya, and the finished products made of it is an indispensable material for refining the best heavenly magic artifacts, and for almost 1,000 years, no new mineral locations have been discovered in several major mountain gates for almost 1,000 years.